Hello, beautiful souls. I hope you are well. Today, I have a wonderful lady with me today, Tatiana. Tatiana is a person who's also part of these beautiful galactic groups that many of us enjoy being a part of. So this is how I met the beautiful Tatiana. She's incredible. She is so talented. She's doing so many things, and she's going to tell us about many of her practices and things she does. Tatiana is not only a starseed, an earth seed in a way, as she calls herself, but also a psychic medium. And she is an incredible multidisciplinary creator. She does many types of arts and creation. She is doing digital photography, which includes food photography, which is very interesting and original. She does Photoshop paintings, which is also quite interesting. I look forward to know more about that. She does a wire wrapped crystal jewels on her boutique on Etsy, which I had the opportunity to have a look at, and they're really amazingly beautiful. And they have like this, I don't know, they're really kind of accessible price wise. It's wonderful. I mean, it's beautiful stuff. So we're going to leave all the links under the video for people to go and have a look at that. And you're also a YouTuber, and on your YouTube you talk about electroculture, the integration of crystals within the garden, or cultivating plants and things. So perhaps you're going to talk more about this. So without further ado, dear Tatiana, I'm going to leave you to tell us more about everything you do, which is so fascinating. Welcome to the channel. It's an honor to have you.
Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure.
Where do I start? I've always had certain abilities growing up. There hasn't really been one time in my life where I haven't had certain gifts. Ages 3 to 5, I would have dolls waking me up in the middle of the night, scaring me from different spirits. And like I put that out of my memory for a long time until years later, when actually the death of my grandmother, my Nana, she actually helped encourage some of my psychic gifts when she died. And seeing her and smelling her perfume, it actually helped me remember more of my gifts. And me telling my mom and my family about this, it really helped put everybody at ease. And I was sending like her messages to people, different family members, and it actually helped a lot of people. And even certain other family members that had been deceased, the way they would send the messages through me, you get to see how that really impacts people, and how one message said in a specific way that person would have said it changes somebody's attitude or their day, or just changes them like for the better. And it's really incredible.
Wow.
And a lot of my childhood, besides like the obvious like stuff growing up, it was helping people in some way with different messages, and just calming and reassuring people. And I wouldn't be looking for this stuff. It would be different spirits coming to me wanting to give messages to certain people. And eventually I did go into a paranormal group, and I did discover more spirits and more cases, and you encounter different beings, both good and bad, with that. And also, you learn a lot with these different cases too. Like there was one instance that really impacted me the most. Back in 2019, we were on a case, and it we were at a cemetery, and there's all these people that had, be careful of your channel, discorporated and from the Spanish FLU.
That thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling their symptoms. I was coughing. I was sneezing. I felt really sick, even though I wasn't sick at the time. And other people on the case with me were also feeling symptoms, and they were not sick.
Okay.
And I would also like to mention that these people were stuck there and they wanted help. They were coming to us for help, and there was an electrical grid nearby.
Okay.
That was also messing, like keeping them there as well. So there was a lot of weird energy going on. And
so that was 2019, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, before everything happened.
Okay. Interesting date. I mean,
yes.
It's prior to 2020, so that's okay.
We did not know anything about that at the time. There are other people that were like just as shocked when everything happened the way it happened. I'm just going to phrase it that way.
Yeah, okay.
But they were stuck. There was weird electricity from the electrical grid system nearby.
Okay.
And they were asking us for help. And they had these costumes that were definitely from the 1800s, which would have been that time period. And you see the high neck dresses and everything. And they were stuck there. They did not have any family still living, at least family still not living within that area. Nobody was coming to see them.
Yeah.
And they were asking for our help. So at that time, with the information I had on hand, we had prayed to Saint Michael, the archangel, and he actually appeared over one telephone light pole, and he opened a portal to help them move through. Now, from my understanding, there was a whole big line of these people like standing on the hill of the cemetery. I would say at least 15 or more people just lined up going into this portal. Now, from my understanding of that, they probably did go through the reincarnation cycle, and knowing what I know now, I probably would have helped them choose their own path, but at that time I didn't know.
Yeah.
So of course that's like another like lesson, but I did what I felt was in my heart to help them. And having that guidance from Saint Michael opening that light portal so they could be reincarnated and go to the light, that was the best way to help them, because they were stuck there. And it was really beautiful just seeing them moving on and being helped. And they were waving at us, and as we were leaving, it was really incredible. And I am glad I got to help them in some way, because I don't know what would have happened to them, you know, it otherwise if we didn't help.
And there were so many. I mean, this Spanish flu thing has been intense. I mean, there was thousands and thousands and thousands. At first, I thought you were talking about the thing that happened in the last 3 years, but I realized you meant really the Spanish flu that happened in the 1900s and the end, beginning like of the
1800s, early 1900s. It was that time period. So there was some spillover fashion from the 1800s still being shown in that time. Just because at that time, like, people would sometimes wear what they had on hand, but it was some did get some things. I'm not entirely sure what they got. I was
Mm.
more feeling their symptoms of what they actually did have, and
Yeah.
some did discorporate very suddenly, and
Yeah.
they were stuck there and they didn't know what was going on. And
Mhm.
while with the case, we wanted to try to find out who was there, just to verify who was there, because some were going in the ground very fast and didn't always have tombstones. While we couldn't get that information just because they wanted to be helped so badly and people hadn't really come to visit them in a very long time, it was more of we needed to help them move on in some way to
Yeah. Bring
become
them to the light.
unstuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't as scientific as maybe we would have liked, but I think it was just more important to help them move on
Yeah.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So you followed your heart, which is it's a good thing in your discernment and heart in that way. Sorry, I didn't want to cut
yeah,
you, but yeah.
no, of course. And that's like the most important thing. Like, we've got to keep our hearts open, like in
Yeah.
this time, because that's really going to help us discover more about who we are and more of our gifts.
Yeah.
Like, and even like with other things too, like I've always tried to lead with my heart when I'm helping people, because even I was helping my one friend with their dog who was also in this group with us.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the sweet dog Molly, I do have permission to share her name just because they always talk about her a lot anyway,
Yeah.
and they always want to share her story with
Mm-hmm.
everybody, my friends. So I will say her name. She was a sweet little schnauzer dog. And every once in a while, like when we come back from investigations and stuff, she was there. And she'd obviously hear a lot of this. And dogs do have these higher souls than we realize, too. And many animals do. It's not
Yeah.
just dogs. So she essentially like grew up like listening to all of this stuff, and when she died, I would say 2 years ago, after this particular investigation where we did help people,
Mm-hmm.
she did discorporate, and she was a sweet dog. Like, she was very much a princess. Like, you had to go over to her if you wanted to pet her. Like, she wouldn't come over to you immediately.
Yeah.
But she was very special, as you could probably tell, to my friends and I.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was no longer physically with us, she would give different messages to us,
Mm.
primarily for my friends, just to help ease the transition of losing her.
Yeah.
But she did become a bit of a protector for them. And
Mm.
before she died, I ended up utilizing some of my photography skills, and I took a picture of her, a beautiful portrait, and my friends hung it up in their house when she was still alive, and they still have it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they lost her, she for Christmas that year, we got them a pillow with the portrait on the pillow, and they still look at the pillow, and they always refer to her as Molly, the pillow as Molly, because it the pillow is actually like a pretty big pillow, and it is close to the size she actually was, and they
Mm-hmm.
have it sitting in the chair where she used to sit. So it really brought them a lot of peace and comfort until they got another dog.
Yeah.
And also, when she did leave us and they put her in a cherry box. Now, I did not know this at the time. When I went to visit them
Mm-hmm.
after this had happened, she's there in their house, and we're there for a party and in her honor, and she's like, "You need to see my pretty box. You need to see my pretty box. You need." and she's like spinning in circles, and she's like, it's a cherry wood box. And,
Incredible.
and I'm seeing the box in my head too, but like I didn't know where it was in the house. It was in a different room than when we were located, and my friends hadn't mentioned that.
Yeah.
So my one friend, she pulls me to where the box is, and she's like, come with me, you need to see this. So we go to the room, and there's a cherry wood box with the picture of Molly on top, a different picture they had, and one of her toys with it. And there she was in the box.
Wow, that's an incredible corroborating story of, seeing her. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna take away a little bit of this, a lot of light here. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible how sometimes you're able to get these actual proofs, corroborating proofs, on top of being a beautiful, heartwarming story. So it's incredible, how these things can be verified. Incredible.
Yeah, and it's always like it's very special too. It's definitely, it makes things easier because like sometimes when you see spirits, it's not always positive, but when you do
Imagine.
have these positive experiences and you do have these different positive experiences, it definitely makes it worth the while. And there is so much more we're still discovering every day. And like there would be like more messages from her because she would use phrasing that I didn't realize she would use, because she would refer to my friends as my mommy and daddy. And
Hmm.
I didn't know that they called themselves that to her. So it
Okay.
was all kinds of different things. And
Incredible.
it's just really amazing, just with spirituality and art, how that can really impact somebody. Now, you don't have to have spiritual art or anything to make a difference. You could just do different drawings, you could do different photography, you can do different things, and it can just brighten up your day. It can open your heart more. And we want to be in that more heart centered living, because the heart is where it all is. We think we need to think with the head. We need to be thinking more with the heart.
Yeah.
And
Reharmonizing both in a very synchronized way. Yeah.
exactly. And it's bringing all of these different experiences together and just realizing like what we can all share with each other, like our different gifts. And even with different things with me, like you realize like you encounter the amazing people in your life too that also have similar gifts to you, and they're going to give you confirmations and messages you've heard like too, and it's really incredible. And you learn more about yourself the more you delve into the heart and you delve into maybe facing those memories from different lives or different, what was the word I was going to use, different
Pa-
lives, different
Parallel or perhaps multidimensional?
yeah, because I mean we are multi-dimensional beings, like different
Mhm.
densities, because also raising our frequency too is going to help access more memories too, because
Yeah.
we weren't always in a 3D body. Like some
Mm.
of these bodies we've had
Yeah.
go up really high in density. So when you try to match that density, you do remember more things.
Yeah.
And with me, like I was always drawn to art. I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer growing up. I eventually got into drawing and digital paintings and digital photography, and remembering certain things about working with crystals also wanted me to work more with crystal jewelry as well. So like I'm wearing one of my crystals. I This
Wow.
is Lemurian quartz on copper,
Magnificent.
and even with the materials you use with wire wrapping crystals, it actually can amplify the effects
Yeah.
of the crystal, because even if you use imperfect crystals, it's still got a lot of energy to it. And
Hmm.
the more geometry you add to a crystal, it's actually going to help make the energy flow better. I
Yeah.
think that's the easiest way I can probably say that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Just because crystals have lattice structures, so they work with geometry to begin with.
Yeah.
And even when you put a crystal in water, it transfers that lattice structure and energy to the water
Hmm.
and spreads that energy through the water. And crystals can actually teach water and vice versa, different information too. And again, like you do with me, it was more of putting that together and then having the different confirmations come through about that from different sources. And it's like, holy cow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And you don't plan it, but like all of these things come together and it all works out. You learn different things both about the world around you, the world within you, because we're all part of source and we're all fractals of source, and like we're all like connected and everything is connected essentially. And even utilizing like the crystals, like I started doing crystal meditations for some of our friends.
Mm.
And I was working with the Vogel cut crystal and utilizing some of the information that I was getting and some of the information that I had been learning, and it was just making sense. And every time we learned something new about it with everybody, because there was different people learning the same information as it came out as I did, and
Hmm.
it's all lining up. And even when you work, and I didn't even know this ahead of time until fairly recently, but what I was doing, I was utilizing Kundalini, which is working with the different chakra points of your body to help calm and ease the body. Like that was my intention, and to make yourself more aligned and more happy.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that the Kundalini bliss state is actually gives a lot of energy off, and it actually helps awaken a lot of things. And that's probably why the crystal meditations were as impactful as they were,
I bet.
because it got people to a state of being like more centered and more not as emotional, but it's more of like happy, but like calm.
Centered or in
Yes.
plenitude or yeah. Hmm.
So it was all giving off really good energy and helping enhance our natural abilities and the abilities of the crystal structure as well. So it was all really good things lining up.
I just want to mention something because I want to rebound on something you said about the crystals earlier regarding your jewelry, but also which kind of links with the Kundalini. Elena, when she talks about the Kundalini, when the two coils, and she talks about the silver, and the other one is copper coil, which you dance around each other to activate the kundalini and the pineal gland. I find it really interesting that in your use of wires in your jewelry, you use copper as well. Do you use consciously copper and perhaps silver? I don't know if you use silver or not, but if do you use those as a way to as well work with the energy of the kundalini in that way? Is that one of the purpose?
So I haven't done silver just because the silver I have on hand is not like malleable.
Okay.
I have a few necklaces right here. So this one is tourmaline and aluminum wire. It's
Okay.
not the best metal for, I would say, long term, but it's okay as a necklace to wear. But the
Mhm.
structure, as you see, like that's why I like doing like this kind of structure with it. Like
They're
even the
malleable.
structure is coiled and it helps amplify the crystal natural energy.
Yeah.
With the copper, like this one is rose quartz. I think this is songbird. This is also on Etsy. But the
Mm,
way I did the
gorgeous.
copper on this, because this is copper. I did it so that it was aligned with the natural way the rose quartz is centered, and it would like hold it up. But also when I work with each crystal, like I'm not really sure how it's going to look at the end fully, because what I've done is I let the crystal tell me along the way how it wants to be wrapped. Because each different crystal, whether it's a rose quartz or black tourmaline, as I have right here, each one is going to be a little bit different in what it actually needs, because each crystal is a different being.
Yeah.
So each one has a little bit different energy than maybe like another rose quartz.
I find it very beautiful how you describe your creativity or your work in quotes, but in a way that always inclusive of the being's consciousness, like not only in terms of a psychic medium with the beings that you encounter, but also the consciousness of the crystal. So there is this beautiful interaction in you. It's not just like pure, work. It's actually this beautiful interaction you have with the matter itself and with the soul and the consciousness that inhabits that matter. So I find it really wonderful how you put all of this together.
Thank you. Yeah, it is pretty fascinating because, like, when you're making them, sometimes, like, it's like being a hairdresser almost. Like, you want to do what's best for the crystal and what's going to help it and what it feels like it wants geometrically added to it. I don't know if that is probably the best way I could put it.
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah, definitely.
But, like, you'll even find like this is ocean jasper, and like this one wanted to be like wrapped around, and it almost had like a heart shape to begin with.
Absolutely, with the two kind of halves there, it's beautiful. Yeah.
And you definitely find like certain crystals too, will be like, I am for somebody. Different crystals will resonate with different people, and usually the ones I keep for me for sure are usually ones that are gifted to me.
Yeah.
Like even this moldavite, I didn't make this, but this is from dear friends of mine. And the first time my friend gave it to me, like to hold it, he's like, here, this moldavite isn't really doing anything for me. I want to see if you can get anything from it. And I hold it, and it electrocutes me, and I had like a little bit of a mark the next day on my fingers. And you'll find that certain people will feel warm energy or electricity, usually not as intense as this one for me, but like even when you give away a crystal, they'll be like, oh, this is so warm, oh, it feels electrical, like that's how you know it's really for them.
Wow,
and
that's
obviously
interesting.
Sorry, people can buy crystals for them too, and it'll work for them too. But like sometimes crystals will definitely like have a little bit of a mind of their own, so to speak. And it's like they kind of know who they're for, or they have to help somebody through a certain point in a certain person's life. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and moldavite is very powerful. I mean, I've heard it. It has a really incredible, powerful consciousness, if you want. I just wanted to ask you regarding your Etsy boutique where you have your beautiful jewelry. Can people actually, when they want to purchase a jewel, can they actually ask you or consult you on what will be like the best crystal for them or something like that? Or it's more like just a question of them liking this particular one? Or is there like a kind of conversation there?
So there's not as much of a conversation, I would say. It would be the crystals that I am selling, but I will say like what each crystal can help with.
Yeah.
Because with the way the crystal necklaces are, because they're not in a perfect geometric shape, they're more of the natural shapes I find them in. They're not going to be like a Vogel cut or a Redian Vogel cut where it's like all of the angles and all of the lattices are absolutely perfect and it's working with the Z-axis. It's not the case for that. It's more of it's more the organic actual energy of the crystal or the stone, which the person thinks is going to be beneficial for them. However, I do throw in like an additional crystal gift that I like intuit for the person as well, that
Wow.
I think can help their energy. And I some of the customers I have sold to are friends of mine, so they have said that this is exactly what they needed at that
Wow.
time.
Your intuition is just really out there and really helping in that choice and bringing them what they want, but also what is good for them that they have perhaps have not realized before. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's definitely really awesome seeing how different crystals and different art can actually impact a person. Because
Yeah.
again, it's not only about their frequencies, like people will be getting certain crystals, or I'll be giving them crystals and I don't know why I'm giving them these crystals. Either the crystals are telling me or I feel like it's for them, and it ends up being exactly what they needed. And
Yeah.
it's incredible. And
Wow. And does it work the same way for your visual arts? I mean, like in terms of photography or for the paintings, is that something you also do in regarding the intuition of the person or the client, or is it something you do creatively for yourself and there's no connection?
well, I would say yes and no. It depends on the piece. A lot of the food stuff and certain things, it was more for me,
Mm-hmm.
but there were some Photoshop paintings that were definitely more intuitive, just
Yep.
because I was trying to get the skin right with the certain Photoshop brushes I was using, or it some photos are more like you realize, oh, this is going to be a really good picture.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I have to get it at this angle with the light shining on it this way and everything. And it's really different. And even I do think I have some photographs on my website that actually do have my vocal cut crystal,
Mm-hmm.
where I at least I think it's the one where it has the selenite in the background, and I had it in a diamond shape. And it with crystals too, because they are beings, you do have to take them in a certain light and a certain angle, and when they're comfortable, you can't zoom in too much. So that
Yeah.
also requires a little bit of intuition, as having like a little bit of a photography background too, because like they can be camera shy too sometimes.
How amazing,
But
Never
it's
thought of that.
because I know for sure, like the vocal cut, I had to be like really careful that day of how I was filming it, because of all of the angling too, of how it picks up the light, because crystals do hold a lot of light within them, and they do bounce off a lot of light as
Yeah.
well,
Mm-hmm.
just because they are very shiny,
Yeah.
especially if they're polished. So you do have to adhere to that as well. And
Yeah.
you can't zoom in as much as maybe you would have liked. Oh, that's awesome, you have these
I'm
with
just
you.
no, I don't want to cut you, but I just want to illustrate visually for people for people to understand. I'm sorry, I have like a green screen, so I have trouble here. But yeah, as you can see, this is a Iridian vocal cut. I apologize. And as you can see, and if I play with the light, it's going to be quite tricky for a photographer to play with that, or interesting or challenging, depending on how you see things, to play with those facets and everything. So I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you, but just this way people can understand what you mean by this complexity of playing with the light and crystals. Mhm.
Exactly, because with crystals, like they definitely like change, they play around a lot with light and visuals, and like how we perceive things visually. Like you were seeing, like I was seeing like the crystal, how you had it on you, and it was definitely changing how things were appearing on the crystal. And
Yeah.
even when you're, that's why I don't have too many Photoshop pieces, including crystals. I have one called Pendulum Girl, where it's like a quartz pendulum, but it's so small because it's so hard to draw and Photoshop in because you need to be attentive of how the background actually appears on the crystal.
I'm just gonna go there because I remember seeing on your website, you sent me your link. Would it be here? This way people can see it. Would that be on your photography here on the best pieces of 2023?
The crystal, the vocal cut, I think would be in there.
Because I remember seeing that here.
Yes, these two, yes. And I even had one of pistachio calcite heart too, which is a little bit easier. But the vocal cut, especially with the different backgrounds, it will manipulate the backgrounds in a way so that it does look a little bit different. And it's definitely all about perspectives and looking within too. And it helps you look within a little bit more within yourself. Like you definitely like use analogies. There's yeah, crystals are incredible and we
Yes.
can definitely learn a lot from them, and there's a lot to unpack with that as well. I could go on and on.
I know. I mean, I just let you choose, what kind of pathway you want to take with this in terms either of crystal or your other practice. I know you mentioned that this whole question of the electrocultures and crystal within the gardening approach. So I don't know if you want to talk about that since we're in the crystals, but I don't want to disrupt the kind of order in which you were wanting to talk about things. So I just really let you go flowingly in the way you want to.
No, that's actually fantastic. I almost forgot about that, so thank you. With the and even incorporating like a lot of my research and intuition about crystals, I and some advice from somebody, I added quartz into my garden. I started off doing one crystal in one yellow bell pepper plant, and then I incorporated it. Once I repotted it, I did a crystal formation around it using different crystals, and then
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you there, but I'm showing your YouTube channel where you
oh yeah,
actually show these really interesting videos of the experiences you've done. But again, don't want to cut you. I'm just leading people towards this beautiful channel where you discuss these things. So continue, please.
no worries. So you definitely learn a lot about crystals with it. I started off with I did the formation for the crystals, and then I found that once I added copper wire wrapped around it clockwise, I also incorporated that into that same bell pepper plant, and I added it to another purple bell pepper plant, and a tomato, and it actually helped them tremendously. And then I went into electroculture, so I used a long cherry wood branch, and I wrapped it clockwise with copper wire, the same copper wire I used for the crystal necklaces.
Yep.
I think I used 16 gauge for that. So that's the bigger thickness of
Diameter.
wire.
Yeah.
So I was actually, because it was a very long stick, it was like 4 feet long. I actually had help from my dad, and we're wrapping it. And he's mentioning that his fingers are tingling from it because of the energy from both
Interesting.
the branch interacting with the copper, which also has a lot of electrical properties to
Okay.
begin with. And we put it in one of my zucchini plants, and all of the plants I got from then on were huge and massive. I got some big zucchinis, but with very little seeds. And that's usually not the case. Like some zucchinis were bigger than my face.
Wow. Okay. That's
And
really
they had,
impressive.
and when we cut them open, like the seeds were still really small, which is very unusual for that to happen. And
Yeah.
they were growing faster than they were actually anticipated just by different research of gardening. And with the tomatoes that soon came in after, they got really big and they came in faster too. And
Wow.
we're still enjoying the tomatoes, but we're pretty much done with the zucchini for right now because they grew much faster than anticipated.
Yeah, that's
And
fascinating.
there's nothing like a good homegrown vegetable to definitely
Totally
like
organic and full of good
it's
things, good
it's
soil.
good energy. And even like
Mm.
with a lot of the gardening I did last year, like you feel the energy coming into these different plants, and like the plants are definitely different beings too. So
Yeah.
working with plants and crystals, you definitely feel like the good energies coming in and out of those different beings, and it's pretty cool. Like you discover like a whole lot, and you learn a little bit more of like how energy works too,
Yeah.
and it it's really incredible. And
Again, this way you have of working in harmony and in synchronizing the energies of all these consciousness, the plants, the crystals, the beings. It's just wonderful. It's a very kind of holistic approach and energetical kind of approach to consciousness and in all its different facets. It's fascinating.
yeah, there's and with energy too and different beings, there's still so much we're learning, and we're still remembering so much.
Yeah.
And also, it's really fascinating going through all these different experiences and learning and just
Yeah.
growing in your own way, like internally, externally, like learning, remembering. And then you encounter different things that are incredible. And sometimes you're there with different people and they can verify as well.
Yeah.
Because even I'm going to bridge this in with another story that just happened to me a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was with my parents and a friend of ours at our friend's house. We're trying to leave. We had to fix the tires, so we're outside in her beautiful yard, looking up at the night sky at the stars, and all of a sudden, we see this blue light in the sky. And unconsciously, I'm thinking, wow, that's really cool. I wish that would come over here. And all of a sudden, that blue light suddenly makes a whole big U turn.
Wow.
My dad's like, oh, it's got to be a satellite. But I'm like, no, that's not a satellite. And my mom and my friend were like, yeah, that's definitely not a satellite. And the way the light was shining, it didn't blink like a plane or
Mm-hmm.
anything else would. It was like this steady, natural light. I don't know how else to describe it. And I wanted to see if it was like an actual like ship or anything.
Yep.
So just to verify, I asked out loud, can you come closer? And all of a sudden, it comes a little bit closer, probably about a mile closer to my vision. I mean, it was still far away, but it definitely wasn't a star.
Yeah.
It was blue, and it came closer on command. Now, I don't know how many ships we have that can come closer on command when I'm not really yelling. So there's
Probably not Terran or
definitely not.
yeah, probably a little visit from upstairs. What shape did
Exactly.
it have? Just by out of curiosity, do you did
It
you?
it was still very far away, so
Mm-hmm.
it was more like this blue orb of light. It was
Okay.
like a darker blue color,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very bright. It didn't want to come super close, but it was moving around enough that it wasn't like any aircraft that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it seemed to move by my thought pattern and me asking it. And my mom and my friend had both noticed and exclaimed that it came closer when I had asked it to come closer.
So again,
So
corroboration, yeah, of other people. I mean, we're not just, we're not dreaming this. I mean, there is, yeah, beautiful.
so based on that, and it did eventually go away. Like it did go in the other direction of where it was in front of me. Like it eventually like disappeared, but it was fairly fast. It went very fast when it was leaving. So it definitely wasn't a Terran ship for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you, and please, I want to respect your privacy, but do you have any intuition as to what eventually origin it could come from? Or is that something you're not sure, or you're trying to discover now, or you're not comfortable talking?
I'm still trying to discover it because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's based on my research and little bits I remember here and there. It doesn't seem like it would be like a Pleiadian ship. I can rule that out safely because
Okay.
they're a little bit longer and narrower.
Mm-hmm.
It
It was more orb-like than an actual
yeah,
scout ship, a Palladian scout ship, which is more like a saucer kind of thing.
yeah, like it was more of this bright blue light. The light was bright, so bright that I couldn't actually see the actual structural shape of it.
Yeah.
But I knew because it was so solid and that it wasn't blinking like a star or a ship
Mm-hmm.
that this had to be something else.
Yeah.
It and it is good having that confirmation that it wasn't just me because you'll see stuff every once in a while that is like, yeah, that's definitely some sort of ship, but I have that confirmation as to what it is. I'm still figuring that out. I have
Yeah.
no idea of the origin, but the light itself definitely felt warm and familiar, though. I
Okay.
can say that.
So we can conclude on that saying that since you do call yourself a starseed, you would feel comfortable to think that perhaps there's a connection there for you. But we'll leave it at that because I know
Yes.
you know, it's a process of discovery and a journey of
Oh, yeah.
recovering this information. But it's interesting to have your point of view of not only having seen these things, because I think it's important people realize that, you know, a lot of people see things, but there's also corroboration from others, which really make this, you know, real. It's not just, you know, in our heads or anything. So that was a beautiful experience you shared. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's just incredible that all of the experiences that we have are just helping us along the way, like even little lessons and different energies. We're always learning, we're always growing with each day, and it's just fascinating, and it's it's really wonderful how everything just flows together
Yeah.
and how everything works out so beautifully, so wonderfully. Because I mean, yes, there are scary things out there, but despite all of that, we're still going strong. Like
Yeah.
we're all on our wonderful journeys and we're all learning from each other. We're all learning from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much beauty, you know?
Yeah.
And it's incredible all of what we can discover, what we can achieve, all of the different people we're going to be meeting, no matter their density or whatever. It's just incredible. Like every single day is a gift. And that's why they call it the present, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A beautiful association of words. I hadn't thought about it that way. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a nice way to see mindfulness.
Yes. It's definitely everything definitely flows together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about picking up the little synchronicities and the little things to
Yeah.
help us remember who we are and who we can be and what we can do
Yeah.
each day for ourselves and for other people, because we all got to take care of each other, you know?
Yeah. Starting with ourselves, huh? And then after that, when we're balanced and all is good, then we're here to support, help, and join together and connect in so many beautiful ways. Tatiana, you have so many I mean, I know we could, have this conversation for like 3 hours because you have so much wonderful things to talk about. We're slowly getting closer to the end of this interview, but I wanted to ask you regarding what you do. You talked about the meditations you do for people. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that? Like, is it something you do more within the galactic groups as a more informal thing, or is it like a kind of a practice you offer to others if someone would like to contact you for that, or is that something you offer?
So with the crystal meditations, I was primarily keeping it to the galactic groups,
Okay.
but I am hoping to open it up more to YouTube just so that more people can experience and go through it. Granted, everybody is capable of meditation, and as many have said, it's also called attunement because it's more attuning to who you are inside. Meditation is more like for group, but you can call it whatever you like. It's I do hope to open it more up to YouTube as well. I'm just currently working on that right now. I've just had a few roadblocks from
Okay.
different things, but
It's coming.
it's coming. It's
It's
definitely
coming.
in the works, and I am hoping to do another one soon on galactic groups soon,
Cool.
and hopefully for YouTube as well. And I don't really get paid for the meditations either. Like I do that out of the bottom of my heart because I
Mhm.
feel like that's my way of helping
Yeah.
the earth and helping different people.
Hmm.
It's not so much I'm doing this for money. I'm not doing this for money. And a lot of the psychic stuff I have done, I haven't done it for money. Maybe my art is like the only thing
Yeah.
I've like gotten compensated from the
Hmm.
art and the crystals, but the crystals are part of the art.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
But
beautiful how you're finding this equilibrium or this balance between, providing for your needs like everyone has to do. We all have rent and, and bills to pay, but at the same time you're offering also not only what you offer is at very affordable prices, which I find is very important. It's beautiful, but also you're providing also these free material YouTube, and it's so generous of you to bring these beautiful things to people, like you say, from your heart, and without necessarily charging for it. So it's beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Before we bring this interview to a close, would you like to tell us, perhaps just, I'm going to put your links under the video here so people will be able to click and go. But would you like to kind of verbally just tell us a little bit more about, where people can reach you? I know you have a website, a YouTube channel, and Etsy boutiques. If you want to present that a little bit.
yes, of course. So you can find me at 3 different websites. The first one is my main website, tatianazaleski.myportfolio.com/work. It showcases a lot of my newer artworks and the crystals, and basically a catch-all for all of my artwork and crystal stuff.
Mhm.
And if whenever I post new works of mine, either photography or crystals, I usually try to put it on there. The next link is my Etsy shop, where I do primarily sell just the crystals because that is a little bit easier to package and it is more accessible. I am working on more of the digital photography too, and I've just been a little bit more focused with the crystals just because they are very fascinating and they do are like, hey, I need to go to a certain person. You
Yeah,
need to
it's like an
facilitate that in
urgency
some
to get
way.
home.
Yeah, it's definitely more of
Yeah.
an urgency with them. So that's why it's more on Etsy right now. Again, like anything could possibly change, but for right now, Etsy is just for where you can purchase the crystals.
Hmm.
And they are on crystal necklaces right now for the moment, just because that's a little bit easier to do. And I mean, you can wear it as a bracelet.
Hmm.
I just find that they hold up better on necklaces rather than keychains.
Yeah.
And they're very delicate beings. Like they can crack pretty easily. So it's.
I was imagining on the bracelet, they could be banged or hurt or
yeah.
So
for sure. So that's why it's on necklaces for right now. And then we have the last link, which is my YouTube channel, which is Water Lily 48. And that is on YouTube. So the link will be down there, but it is capital W, capital L, and then 48.
Perfect.
So in case you're looking for it when you're searching for it on YouTube, in case you don't happen to have this link. But
wonderful. Thank you.
It will be at the bottom.
Yeah, it will be under the video for sure. People will be able to directly go and click on them and really explore. I really encourage people to explore your beautiful 3 sites, which have a lot of material and really fascinating things, which really speak of the unique way in which you bring all of this communication between forms of consciousness together and bringing all of this beautiful work you do. Thank you for all you do and all you bring to us. Before we go, would you like to offer us a few last words of your own wisdom for all of us?
Oh, okay.
Or just last few words. I don't want to put pressure on you.
It's okay. It's okay. I would just say always work on opening your heart, because that's really important right now. And love is one of the greatest things at our disposal, and love opens up a lot.
It's the center of everything. I mean, if we are in that frequency, in that high frequency, everything just naturally flows, doesn't it? So
exactly.
you're working from that space of love and high frequencies. So everything you do seems to be imbued with that beautiful loving frequency and light frequency. So thank you again for all you do. And thank you for sharing with us today your beautiful practice and all the really amazing, very multidisciplinary things you do. It's quite fascinating, and also sharing with us your experiences on the on a level of contacts, if we want, with other consciousness, either of this plane or other, and how you have been able to also corroborate that with a lot of things that were, kind of prove all of it. So I find it very, very, very interesting. So thank you very much, Tatiana, for coming on the channel. And you're always welcome to come back if you want to present new things or new research or new practices of yours. It will be always a pleasure to welcome you on the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like, share, subscribe this wonderful channel.
Thank you. This channel is not monetized, and I don't do it to be very popular or anything like that. So it's true that I don't do this usual speech of like subscribing and clicking the bell, because I just flowingly, I assume that people who want to be on that channel will, and those who don't, just, it's a kind of flow there. So, but thank you so much for saying this. So I wish you a lovely day, Tatiana. Thank you again for everything, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, beautiful soul. You have been on a spiritual journey for some time, or perhaps you're just starting your inner journey. And you probably have questions that remain unanswered right now, although all your answers lie within yourself, as always. But sometimes we need someone to just give us a little nudge. And personally, as an intuitive and a transmitter and a creator, I have created my own type of approach where I offer the people the opportunity to ask a few questions, a maximum of 5 questions, where I will provide from my inner guidance, which is the fractal of source that I am and that you are as well as my high vibration guidance, will provide a vocal transmission. And also we will be creating an artwork just for you, unique and original, based on your questions, and the motifs and the colors that will be chosen for the artwork will have in some way, some information about the answers to your question. And I will also use a piece of music that either through the frequency of its melody, of its words, will also give you some clues as to what the answers to your questions might be. And I only serve as a nudge, as a pointer, in order for you to, after that, resonate or not with this information, and then you can pursue your own spiritual and inner journey, just having been just helped a little bit on the path. So if you're interested in a creative intuitive transmission session, which I call CIT, I invite you to follow the link that's below in the description of this video, and on my website, abigaëllerichard.com/CIT. And don't hesitate to ask for more information or just book a session. Have a lovely day. Bye.